And when you see, there's no artist, let me be clear, there's no artist in this industry that's doing major numbers with these platforms that haven't sold their soul.
If you're a halfway intelligent person, when do you start questioning how lucky some motherfuckers keep getting?
Right.
What if everything you thought you knew about Michael Jackson's final moments was a lie? Picture it. June 25th, 2009. The world stood still. News of Jackson's collapse swept through LA like a wildfire. Paparazzi chased ambulances, fans clung to radios and television screens. Within hours, the media had a headline: cardiac arrest, a fatal dose of propofol. His private doctor, Conrad Murray, panicked, silent, then condemned. A tragic accident, they said. Case closed. But what if Michael Jackson didn't actually pass away that day? What if the king of pop orchestrated his own disappearance, not to escape fame, but to escape something much, much darker?
There's nothing I can do to take it back. And if someone was hurt by it, saying I'm sorry.
Sources close to the Jackson estate have whispered for years that Michael knew something was coming. In the months leading up to that fateful summer, his behavior became more erratic, but also more vigilant. He was reportedly paranoid, convinced that powerful people in the industry were trying to silence him. "They're going to end me for my catalog," he allegedly told his sister LaToya, who later said, "Michael told me he was going to be taken out, and I believe him." That wasn't some offhand comment. Jackson was sitting on one of the most valuable music catalogs in the world. Billions in publishing rights, songs from the Beatles, Elvis, and of course, his own. Control over it meant control over the industry. But let's rewind to his final rehearsals. Just 2 days before June 25, leaked footage shows Michael practicing choreography for the This Is It tour. He looked focused, but the man was clearly exhausted. Gaunt, slow to move, eyes sunken. This wasn't the Michael Jackson we remembered from Super Bowl halftimes or moonwalking on Motown 25. This was a man running on fumes. And yet, those closest to him say he was terrified of sleeping, not because of insomnia, but because he feared he wouldn't wake up.
As you may already know, after my tour ended, I remain out of the country undergoing treatment for a dependency on pain medication. This medication was initially prescribed to see the excruciating pain that I was suffering after recent reconstructive surgery on my scalp.
Then came the black envelope, a chilling rumor that's been circulating among former insiders and low-profile staffers since 2010. According to one former Neverland employee, a sealed envelope was delivered to Michael's LA estate just weeks before his so-called demise. Its contents, allegedly a typed warning from a high-level exec: stop talking, stop investigating, stop asking questions or else. The handwriting on the outside of the envelope wasn't even addressed to Michael. It simply said, "The final warning." And that's not the only strange message he received. In his final interviews and private voicemails, some of which were leaked to fringe blogs but later suppressed, Michael repeatedly expressed that he was being followed, tapped phones, shadows outside his windows. "They're watching me," he reportedly told a confidant during a late-night phone call. "I'm not safe." At the time, most dismissed it as paranoia. But in hindsight, as court battles and suppressed files have emerged, his fears are harder to brush off, especially when some of the people Michael was supposedly afraid of are now making headlines themselves for all the wrong reasons.
And I'm not saying allegedly.
Oh.
I'm saying, Sean Carter, you're a piece of shit. Taking Pimp C wasn't bad enough. You just want to go down there and you want to just remove all of the balls from every real gangster in Houston.
Enter Sean Diddy Combs and Sean Jay-Z Carter, two men who dominated the industry then and still do now. Both are currently named in separate civil lawsuits by a woman who alleges she was assaulted in 2000 when she was just 13. While Diddy sits behind bars awaiting trial for federal trafficking charges, Jay-Z's team has launched a legal counteroffensive, one so aggressive that even the judge called it inappropriate. The timing, the optics, the magnitude, it's not lost on the people who are close to Michael, because those same two names, according to a source within MJ's former legal circle, they were on a handwritten list he kept in his dressing room, a list titled Enemies, written in black marker, folded, taped to the inside of his travel case. We're not saying Jay-Z or Diddy were involved in what happened to Michael, but think about it. These are two men with tangled, decades-long ties to shadowy figures in the industry. They've survived scandals, lawsuits, whispers of manipulation, intimidation, and control. And now, with Diddy's empire unraveling and Jay-Z's legal team drowning in motions, some fans wonder, Is this the fallout Michael warned us about? Was the King of Pop trying to shine a light on the system years before it started to crack?
Puff Daddy flipped out regarding Michael Jackson at a party in Los Angeles. Apparently, a bunch of celebrities got together and they were having a tribute party for Michael Jackson. And one of Michael Jackson's songs was playing. What was the name of the song?
Man in the Mirror.
Man in the Mirror was playing. There we go. And, you know, the celebrities like Queen Latifah, Wesley Snipes, Hill Harper, they were all dancing, having a good time to his music.
Michael had always been vocal about corruption in the industry. Remember his 2002 speech in Harlem where he called out Sony Music for exploiting artists and keeping black talent under thumb? He openly accused former exec Tommy Mottola of being devilish and accused the label of blackballing him. That speech at the time was brushed off as eccentric. But insiders now say it was the opening shot of a long war between Michael and the establishment. A war he couldn't win alive. And then there's the money. At the time of his passing, Michael was reportedly facing hundreds of millions in debt. A promotional deal with AEG had him locked into a grueling tour contract. 50 shows, not 10 like originally discussed. Some say he was pressured into signing under duress. Others claim he had no memory of the final negotiations. Either way, once he was gone, the catalog was no longer in his control, and the same people he warned about, they got richer.
Guys, they found underground tunnels at Diddy's homes. This was first brought up by Shadow of Ezra, where he talked about the underground tunnels in Diddy's luxurious Los Angeles mansion. It was an underwater swimming tunnel leading to a mysterious grotto, reminiscent of an ancient and modern human use of caves.
Which brings us to the clone theory. Yes, it sounds absurd on the surface, but former staff at Neverland claim Michael believed he was being cloned, literally. One ex-security guard recalls Michael asking that his personal toothbrush and hair samples be destroyed, afraid that someone could use his DNA without consent. They want to own me, even after I'm gone, he allegedly said. Wild? Maybe, but years later rumors surfaced about unidentified tissue samples taken post-autopsy, samples that were never cataloged officially. The family's second private autopsy still mostly sealed. And let's not forget the gaps in the official timeline. Why was it nearly an hour before paramedics were called? Why did Conrad Murray spend so long on the phone in the minutes after Michael lost consciousness? Why did the LAPD seal portions of the toxicology report for over a year? And why did Michael's own daughter, Paris, say flat out in 2017 that her father was absolutely the victim of foul play? If he wasn't lost that day in June, then where is he now? There have been unconfirmed sightings, grainy images, strange voice notes, and even a cryptic post from Hollywood hairdresser Steve Earhart, once one of Jackson's closest confidants, who teased, "Good news for believers," claiming even the family didn't know the whole truth. That post has since been deleted.
There are people who did short sales on their stocks right after that, made a lot of money, including Sean Carter. Now I'm going to ask you, why would non-disclosure agreements need to be signed for an accident?
So is Michael hiding, waiting, preparing to finally reveal what he spent his last years uncovering? Is the unraveling of the industry, the lawsuits, the exposed cover-ups, the crumbling moguls, exactly what he foresaw? And here's where the story twists into something even more unsettling. Because behind closed doors, Michael Jackson wasn't just rehearsing for This Is It. According to whispers from insiders who worked the business end of his career, he was quietly plotting something that could have blown the doors off the entire music industry. We're talking about a revolutionary independent empire, one that would have freed artists from the grip of corporate labels and their suffocating contracts. And who is allegedly at his side in those early talks? None other than Sean Carter, Jay-Z himself. Imagine it. The king of pop and the self-made rap mogul uniting to build an empire so powerful that it could have shaken the foundations of Sony, Universal, and Warner. But here's the chilling part. Just as momentum began building, Michael started to suspect betrayal.
I want you to think about this. Allegedly, Sean Carter is responsible for enacting Hype Williams to put Aaliyah on a faulty plane to move her out the way as punishment for rejecting him, and so he could level up Beyonce, who was struggling.
One industry veteran insists Michael became convinced that his partner in this secret venture was no longer aligned with him. Was Jay-Z playing both sides? Was he feeding information to the very executives Michael was planning to take down? It's impossible to ignore how convenient the timing looks in retrospect. Michael's disappearance from the scene in 2009 left a gaping vacuum in power, and who rose in the decade that followed? Jay-Z, building Rock Nation into an empire, joining billionaire circles, and becoming the face of corporate-approved rebellion. If Michael's vision had succeeded, those profits would have belonged to artists, not shareholders. Instead, the industry kept its grip, and Jay-Z became one of its most influential gatekeepers. Did the King of Pop's absence clear the runway for someone else's takeoff? We have to confront the fact that Michael's sudden exit fit neatly into a larger narrative. His planned independent venture would have redirected billions of dollars away from the very labels that had already been battling him over catalog rights. His speeches about exploitation weren't just noise. They were signals that he was preparing to act. By contrast, Jay-Z's meteoric rise over the same period was tethered to partnerships with major corporations. It begs the question, did Michael's downfall protect the old guard, while his one-time ally positioned himself as their new favorite son?
Jay-Z got his ass whooped by his sister-in-law on camera. What's her name? Solange. You got his ass. The feds ain't step in and do nothing. The feds don't care about you getting your ass whooped.
And then there's the chaos of those final hours. Dr. Conrad Murray stood trial as the fall guy, branded as reckless, negligent, and incompetent. But what about the phone records? According to investigators and leaked transcripts, Murray made a series of frantic calls in the window after Michael slipped into crisis but before 911 was dialed. And here's the kicker. Those calls weren't to emergency services, they weren't to family, and they weren't even to security staff in the house. They were to unidentified contacts, lasting minutes at a time. Murray would later claim he was trying to get advice, while his world-famous patient lay motionless. Some believe those calls were to what insiders call cleaners, industry figures tasked with damage control when a scandal gets too big to contain. Others suspect they were instructions, handed down in real time on how to manage the scene. Which bottles to move, which equipment to conceal, which timeline to establish. That hour-long delay before paramedics were called has always haunted this story. Was it incompetence or was it choreography?
It's a lot more complicated than just Dr. Murray was at his bedside when he did. Circumstances had been leading up to this for years.
And let's not forget, Michael's estate was reorganized almost immediately after his passing. Within weeks, contracts were signed, projects launched, and a torrent of posthumous releases flooded the market. The machine didn't just keep turning, it sped up. Someone knew exactly what to do once Michael was out of the way, which makes Murray's phone calls feel less like a doctor panicking and more like a cog in a much larger machine. But we can't ignore the role of the Jackson family itself, because every great conspiracy is made even darker when the question of loyalty comes into play. For decades, Michael's siblings had a complicated relationship with him, admiring his success but often left in the shadow of his fame. After his disappearance, financial disputes quickly surfaced. Court filings showed that some brothers and sisters challenged the will, questioning its legitimacy, even claiming Michael couldn't have signed it where and when the document said he did. Those challenges weren't just about paperwork, they signaled a deeper fracture, a suggestion that pieces of the family may have been aligning with the very industry players Michael had feared.
I was sleeping, and my boyfriend tapped me and said, "Mary, Shy's on the phone telling us that Aaliyah just got."
Whispers from insiders have long suggested that certain relatives benefited from his absence. With Michael out of the way, estates were reorganized, royalties surged, and payouts began flowing to family members who had been sidelined during his lifetime. For some, it looked less like mourning and more like opportunity. That alone fuels suspicion. Were they grieving the man or cashing in on the brand? When industry power brokers took control of his catalog, it was the family who stood by as billions in value shifted hands. Did they fight hard enough to protect his vision, or did silence serve their own interests? At the same time, there were members who seemed to sense something far more sinister. Paris Jackson, barely a teenager when her father vanished, has grown into adulthood, carrying the weight of those suspicions. She has publicly implied that his departure was not an accident, hinting at forces beyond a doctor's recklessness. Observers have noted her language and her repeated insistence that a lot of people wanted him gone, but she has stopped short of naming names. The restraint only intensifies speculation. Does she know more than she dares to say, even about her own family?
What's up, what's up? This is Beyonce on the red carpet with one of the hottest female artists out here, Miss Aaliyah. How you doing, girl? It's so good to see you. You too. She's just...
The siblings themselves have not spoken with one voice. LaToya in particular has fueled theories of a larger plot, claiming her brother was sacrificed for his music catalog. Yet other siblings kept their distance, often dismissing or contradicting her assertions. The mixed messaging created confusion, leaving the public unsure whether the Jackson family was fractured by grief or strategically divided to protect certain alliances. In a narrative already clouded by secrecy, their contradictions seemed less like chaos and more like choreography. What makes this dynamic so haunting is the possibility that those who should have been Michael's fiercest protectors may have been absorbed into the very machinery he was resisting. Family dinners and private conversations might have doubled as boardroom negotiations, loyalty blurred with business and love tangled with leverage. For fans, that realization adds a psychological twist to the story. If Michael's disappearance was engineered, it wasn't only strangers in suits who played a role. It may have been those with his last name.
Is it really a conspiracy if the same person keeps benefiting off the same kind of tragedy over and over?
What's striking is how the puzzle pieces align with Michael's own warnings. Paris Jackson has said her father would whisper that they're going to end me one day. LaToya has repeatedly claimed Michael told her he would be taken out for his catalog, and yet the official narrative still pins the blame on one underqualified physician with a syringe. Convenient, tidy, and easy for the public to swallow. But if Michael orchestrated his own vanishing act, leaving Murray to play the role of scapegoat, then those phone calls take on a whole new meaning. They weren't the frantic mistakes of a guilty doctor. They were the crucial steps in a cover story that has lasted more than a decade. And here's where things get explosive. Because if Michael is still alive, and if he has been watching from the shadows, gathering evidence, preparing his return, then the entire power structure of the music business could come crashing down. Think of the lawsuits already circling Diddy. Think of Jay-Z battling accusations while his attorney is scolded by a federal judge for filing relentless and combative motion. Think of the way insiders are whispering about secret settlements, hidden tapes, and victims finally stepping forward. Now picture Michael Jackson stepping back into the spotlight, catalog in hand, and declaring that he has proof of the corruption that almost consumed him. Whose careers would be torched, whose legacies would unravel, and most importantly, how far would they go to keep him silent one more time?
Jay-Z new video with Nas and DJ Khaled is a scene with checkerboards. These are all occult Satanists.
So we ask you, what do you believe? Is Michael Jackson alive, waiting to expose the empire that betrayed him? Or is his story the cautionary tale of a genius who tried to fight the system and lost? Drop your thoughts in the comments because this is one conspiracy that won't fade quietly. Until next time, stay curious, stay bold, and never stop asking the questions they don't want answered.